Hey, here we go. Today is technical difficulty day, but that's okay. We're gonna make it through. Okay, here we go. So, hello everyone. I believe I've had the opportunity to meet all of you at this point. I'm so excited to see you here again. It's really nice to have these weekly kind of touch base with you and give you lots of amazing information so that you can be as successful online as possible. Today we're going to be talking about creating amazing content, and we're also going to be talking about copywriting. And we have a wonderful guest with us here today. Her name is Heather, and she's going to be leading you through that portion of the workshop. Here are a couple dates to keep in mind. As you know, we've already gone through and we have finalized our business plan and marketing strategy workshop. We also did creating your website and making sure that it's optimized last week. And then this week, creating compelling and professional content. And last but certainly not least, we have social media planning and selling online coming up on June 15th. So I hope you have those dates all set in mind. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We are past the halfway mark now. So you guys probably already know me at this point, but for any of you that are kind of just jumping in now, my name is Rose Terry. I am the marketing manager and a senior innovation specialist here at the Innovation Cluster. And I work with innovation and technology companies specifically, but I've worked with hundreds upon hundreds of startups to help them get their businesses off the ground, as well as be as successful as they possibly can be. So I'm really excited to be working with you guys to bring you these workshops. So today, what we hope that you get out of the workshop is, first and foremost, creating content virtually. Heather is also going to be talking to you about photography from home, which is really exciting. We're also going to be talking about working with a photographer, which is what Heather is. So she's going to be giving you lots of great tips and tricks for how to navigate what's happening right now during COVID and how to still be able to create amazing content, even though we are still following the physical distancing measures. And then I'm going to get in to writing copy and how to write copy that sells after Heather talks about the content. So it's kind of like taking this piece and then this piece and then joining them together. So our gift to you today, Heather and I worked on a wonderful guide for you, which you should have received from Anne. I believe last week she sent that out. And it's creating compelling and professional content. So in that guide, so that you don't have to be writing everything down like a maniac, you can flip through your guide, right? And then any notes or things that you hear within the workshop that you feel like you want to add into that guide, feel free to do so. For the copywriting portion, you may notice it's actually in the marketing workshop guide that you would have received in the very first session. So for the copywriting portion that I'm talking about today, you would have received that as the first booklet, so you can flip back to that one. Meet the expert. This is the lovely Heather. Okay, I've had the opportunity to work with Heather multiple times. Outside of doing a workshop like this is the first time that we've ever worked together doing a workshop, which is pretty fun. And Heather is amazing. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about herself, but she's done a lot of really great things for the community. So we're very lucky to have her here today to talk to you about creating amazing content, especially during COVID-19. So I'm going to unmute Heather and welcome her into the meeting now. And Heather, can we hear you?
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Hi. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
I can hear you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hi.
So you should have control now, Heather, of the PowerPoint.
Let's see. Do I have control? Do I have control? Our technical difficulties continue.
If not, I'm happy to be your slide
I
clicker.
think you're going to have to be our
That's fine. I got it. You want me to go to the next one?
slide. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so hi everybody. I am Heather Dowdy. I am a local photographer in Peterborough. You probably may have seen the portraits that are hanging in the Venture North building where the Innovation Cluster is. That is my Inspire project, which Rose is an inspiring woman, I guess. But when I started to do photography, I started in the marketing and branding world and then kind of grew out of there. So when Rose reached out to me, it's really exciting because with COVID, I've kind of come full circle. I left the marketing, kind of went into events and photography, really figured out the idea of telling people's story. And now with COVID and the fact that you can't gather in any more than 5 people, I'm going back into it, but with a whole new way of looking at products and business owners and entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited to be here, and hopefully I can share with everybody some tips and tricks and get you guys rocking out there online. So when they do studies, a picture has always been that old saying, worth 1,000 words. And it's 100% true. It's statistically proven that people only retain 10% of the information that they get from an audio-only source, but they will retain up to 65% of the information from a visual source. We are a highly visual society, and we have a very short attention span. So photos on your website are super important. Not only do they tell your story, but they're going to connect with your target audience. And I'm sure that you figured out, or you're learning what your target group is. So you will style your photos to those people. They provide engaging content to turn viewers into consumers. And that is a lot of presenting in a unique way in connection with your brand. So you might be selling coffee, but because you're presenting it in a way that's telling your story of why this coffee is so much better, because you're connected with it, you've grown the cocoa beans, or however that goes, your audience is like, yes, that coffee looks amazing. Believe it or not, photos, if you use the alt text when you put them into your website, they will increase your website SEO. And it's another way when people type in, for instance, this picture, somebody could type in picture of mac and cheese. If I have put picture of mac and cheese in frying pan, Google will find it and pull it up, and it could result in a click. And the last thing photos do is they provide a shareable advertising resource. So not only for you, you're like, oh, wow, this is a really cool photo. I'm going to share it on Facebook and Instagram in my stories. But somebody could come along and be like, oh my goodness, that looks delicious. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to pin it. So they pin it into Pinterest. They share it on their Facebook. They share it in their stories. And that links back to your website. So people will be like, oh, this looks amazing. Where did this come from? And they click and they come back to you. So next slide, please. So a lot of people feel that a professional photographer is too expensive to do. But professional and DIY completely combine to make this really cool combination. When you set up your website, you set up your e-commerce store, you need high resolution images to put out there for your consumer. And you're competing with everybody else. So those initial images that the viewer sees, they need to be high quality because that's what everybody's rating you against. So a professional photographer can give you these high quality images, high resolution images, and they can be a foundation for your website, for your social media channels, and your advertising campaigns. But you don't want to keep calling in your photographer every week if your product inventory is changing, or you're bringing in new products, or you sold out of this one and you're now starting this one. That is where the DIY comes in. It keeps your flow up to date. You can use it for your stories. You can use it for social, behind the scenes, and meet the owners. Those are huge right now because people really, really want to know who is behind the brand. There's the huge push to shop local right here in Peterborough, support our local businesses, but even nationally to support, Canadian by Canadian. So meeting the owner and being able to put a face to a brand is very important. And it really doesn't create that much extra work to have this combination between the two, because once you figure out what you need for your photos, you just transfer to the pro and the DIY. So once you've got the first steps figured out, you're good to go on both. So next slide, please. Okay. So your first step when you go to create content is to try and create a minimum of 14 days. And I know everybody's like, oh, 14 days, oh my gosh, I can't even plan a week. When you go to do content creation, it's just a lot more than just like, oh, here's my product, plop, take a picture, put it up. You're going to have to think of, do I need any props? I have to take these pictures. I'm going to take multiple pictures. I'm going to edit these pictures. And you don't want to be like, oh, I took 3 pictures, boom, got them up, got them scheduled. Oh no, now I have to do laundry. I have to go grocery shopping. I have to do this. I have to do this. Oh no, I'm out of pictures. I need to take more pictures, which winds up that you start getting rushed and your picture quality goes down, or you just skip it altogether. So when you go to do that, you look at what you want to see for 14 days, 21 days, 30 days is actually, I think it's what they recommend, but I'm not that organized. I could never plan my life out 30 days in advance. So I say 14 is a really good one. When you're going to do your photo shoot, think too if you're going to do maybe some giveaways, if you're going to have featured products, if you're going to have new product lines coming in, try and include those. Often you'll have samples of new products, so you can even do like little sneak peeks. Ooh, what's this? And you run it, a week ahead of when it's supposed to arrive. You could also look at your analytics, see if there's any products that aren't doing the best. They have a lot of, maybe they have a lot of views, but nobody's clicking through, or they just keep getting looked over. If they're on a grid pattern, nobody ever clicks on, the blue yarn. They're always going for the green. So maybe do a little photo shoot with that one to make it a featured product, or to switch it up. Obviously, this 14 days worth of contact doesn't mean for your stories, because those need to be very in the moment. Like I said, if you've got new inventory, you could take a picture, oh, this is my sneak peek, and post it, but you could do a real-time live Facebook Live or Insta Live of when the product arrives, being like, oh, here it is. So it's really planning out your entire 2 weeks of what you're doing with your business. Yeah, next slide. And then step 2, my brand and its story. I don't know whether you guys have touched on the why of your business, but it's sort of like why you do, why you sell what you do, why is this product really important to you? So when you go to take the photos, it's really simple. Like, we'll go back to coffee. Oh, we'll take a picture of coffee in a cup. But there's a million pictures of coffee in a cup. If you look at Tim Hortons, they have branded themselves as the Canadian coffee. You'll see their products tend to be pretty kind of quote unquote average Canadians. They may be in hockey arenas. This is all pre-COVID. Right now they're giving out to first responders, which is also very humanizing of their brand. And what that does is that creates consumer loyalty in their photos. So when you go to take your photo, try and humanize it. Yes, you're going to have just the single product photo that people can click on and buy, but these are the photos that are going to draw the people in. So for instance, your coffee could be with a person laughing or reading a paper. It depends who your target market is. That's the humanizing of your photos. It's making the viewer think, hey, I can do that. That fits in my life. Then you need to emphasize your branding and take photos that appeal to your target consumer. I'm sure if you figured out who your target consumers are, it would be great if we had a product that appealed to every single person on the face of the earth. We would all be Bill Gates and super rich, but we don't. So figuring out who your target market is very important, because if your target market happens to be women between the ages of 35 and 55, and they tend to be professional, you are not going to take pictures with teenagers in a skate park and expect those women to click on your product. You're going to take your photos in a setting or with your product in a setting that would appeal to that target audience. And that will make them like, oh, I can see myself wearing this, consuming that, whatever it is that you're offering. And they will click in and then hopefully click on to the actual product photos. Okay, and these photos, they can be used for your social postings, your foundation photos, for your product landing pages. And product landing pages are the page that your viewer will click through and land on. That could be, was like the yarn, the picture of the yarn in the slide back, where there's like 4 or 5 different yarns and it's like a vine. If you clicked on that picture in Pinterest, it would take you to that product landing page. And then from there, you would click through and find out about each skein of yarn. But that's what a product landing page should look like. And then it would go out for advertising as well. And then the other thing is show your face. Even if you are wearing a mask like Tracy in the photo on the slide, you get in front of the camera. I don't like to be in front of the camera. I hate being in front of the camera. It's awkward, but you have to do it because in today's world, people really, really want to see who you are. They really want to connect. They want to know the person that they're giving their money to. You're going to form a relationship with them by doing this that makes them want to buy from you. And you don't always have to be perfect. I mean, there's no hairdressers open. And people use that excuse, I haven't been to the hairdresser. I haven't, makeup. It doesn't matter. Everybody is in the same boat. You can even speak to that in your pictures. Instagram and Facebook, the gods that be there, say that you should show your face at least once every 10 days, or some portion of your face or your life that your audience can connect with. So, for instance, Rose has an adorable little boy, and every now and then she posts pictures of him, which instantly connects with any moms, especially moms with boys, right? But in that target market, and they're like, oh, I understand. She's so sweet. She's got a little boy. Of course I'm going to buy from her, right? That's how you humanize your story in there. If you are selling products, make sure in your photos you're wearing them. And you don't have to do the Vanna White, like, oh, check out my earrings. But you can just be wearing the product And maybe that day you would also do a little bit of marketing on the earrings. So that's back to the subliminal marketing that advertising for years claims doesn't exist. It actually does. But you would wear and have a really nice story about how you got dressed up special for your anniversary, blah, 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 and it was really romantic and da, 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 and you're wearing these earrings. And then there might be another post that day, 6-7 hours later with those earrings. And although you would be like, oh, I don't see how they're connected, your viewer's mind will be, oh, that was such a story. Oh, that's the earring she's wearing. Oh, I bet you I could feel like that. And they will buy. And that is subliminal marketing. That's how that whole thing works, because your mind is remembering these things and the things that you're connecting to. If you are a maker or a creator, there is nothing that people love to see more than you doing what you do. Because I'm not going to lie, I am not the world's greatest maker. So seeing somebody who is talented making or growing or creating is pretty amazing to me. There's some artists do time lapse, which you can do on your phone, right? And they will paint, and the time lapse creates this, painting in 2 seconds. And to you, it may be like, oh, this is horrible, the lighting's bad, but don't. People are like, oh my gosh, you're so talented. So you're just letting people in to see little portions of what you are. And when you build that connection, you could have all the most beautiful photos on the face of the earth, but if you have no connections with your community, you're not going to sell very well. You need that connection. You need to be human. And right now, you really need to put it out there. And that's why Tracy, this is Tracy Armand in the photo from That's Wrap Catering. So she's not very glamorous looking right now. She's chopping carrots and wearing a black mask. But she is smiling. She is one of the few people I've known that smiles. She's figured out how to smile with her eyes. And she gets really good hits off this photo because she's just standing in her kitchen. It's a pretty unremarkable photo. But she humanized herself because she's like, I'm just like everybody else. I'm doing my job. I'm working hard. And I'm stuck wearing a mask too. And, I kind of feel goofy wearing a mask. So next slide, please. So, you guys ready to try this at home? This is the try at your home section. You need a little bit of a checklist. You need, obviously, a camera. Now, smartphone. Today's smartphones will do amazing. Or a traditional camera. When I say traditional camera, I do mean a digital. If you shoot film, that's amazing, but probably not going to be super easy for you to try and do. So a smartphone or a digital camera, a tripod or a selfie stick or some means of stabilizing your camera. You need a room with good lighting and a reflector. I will call this natural lighting. And then these two are kind of optional. Everybody pretty much has a room in their house or can access a room or an area with good lighting. A light box and lights may not be so easy to get a hold of, and they may be financially not right now for a lot of businesses, and in most cases you can make do without them. A white background sweep and any props or branding items. And when I say props, I don't mean put all this clutter into your photos, because obviously your photos are supposed to be selling your product. But you saw on the pictures of the yarn, there was a tiny little bit of ivy that just went across. That's kind of the prop. The focus was still on the yarn, but the ivy just kind of added a little artistic flavor. This photo here on this slide is a complete just product. It's kind of boring, kind of bland, but this would be when you've hit the product landing page and now you've clicked through, and you would actually be looking at this type of photo that you see here, and it would have your cart and everything. So this is the kind of photos that you would be going for actually to sell what your consumer would be adding to their cart. So you can see that there's 1, 2, 3 things that it's makeup things. I think it's eyebrows. I can't remember, and a case. So next slide, please. Okay. So the first thing is for your camera, don't stress about buying an expensive DSLR camera. You don't need one. I mean, if you have one, that's great, but you don't need one. Point and shoots are fine. Smartphones are fine. Some smartphones now are better than point and shoot cameras. That new iPhone with its 3 lenses is pretty much top of the line. You wouldn't need to buy another camera. A couple of tips when shooting with a smartphone. And actually, if you're shooting for social, if you're shooting for Instagram posts, shoot in portrait mode. So that means holding your phone up this way. Don't shoot with it. So we'll do like this. Don't shoot like this. Shoot like this. And the reason is Instagram layout is set up for a vertical shot. So when you try to put a horizontal photo in, you actually scrunch it down a little bit, which can cause some distortion. When you shoot with your smartphone, put your settings on portrait if you can. All that does is it blurs out your background a little bit. And never use the zoom action. Cell phones, the lenses, they can't move in and out. And that's actually how a zoom lens works. The lens moves out and in. And that's how it's telescopic. On a cell phone, when you zoom with your fingers, you're cropping. You're not actually moving the lens any farther out. You're cropping the image. And because cell phones pixels aren't that great, when you start to zoom in like that, you'll start to get distortion, and then you're going to get a really low quality photo. A tripod. So if you decided I'm going to shoot 10 items and you've got yourself all set up, you've got your items, you get everything all organized, got a great shot, click. Now how do you replicate that for the next one? Because you have to put the phone down, you have to pick the item up, you have to move. So if you have a tripod, a selfie stick will work. You can just, if you have a cell phone, you just take the selfie stick and kind of wedge it in something. It's just so your phone or whatever camera you're using, it never moves. You're going to move the stuff in and out underneath it or away from it or whatever, but the camera itself never moves. And this creates consistency with your angles and the consumer viewpoint. And also if you mark it, so you have your little setup and you kind of like put an X here is where I put my phone, wrap a piece of tape on your selfie stick. This is where I had it extended to. You can replicate this every time you come back to do it. So you get this nice consistency. You will also need a tripod to take selfies and self-portraits for the sessions for when you put yourself out there. Unless you're going to hold your arm way out and do it that way. Or I've seen some of the bloggers duct tape their phones. So they will have their phones duct taped to walls and windows and everything else. It's not recommended, but whatever works. Okay, so tripods you can get for your DSLRs, pretty inexpensive. I think Staples, Amazon sells some cheap ones. The only thing that you have to make sure is on the bottom of your DSLR, we'll show you, you will see, I don't know if you can see, but there's this piece that comes off. You need to get this, because this funny shaped thing that looks like a house is what actually slides into your tripod. Most cameras don't come with it. So when you order a tripod, make sure that it has that screw-in piece. And on the bottom of your camera, there will be a hole where that screw goes in. Okay, so next slide, please. So here we get into lighting. So natural lighting obviously comes from the sun, and it can be outside or a room with good lighting. If you're going to take your products outside, it's kind of not the best way to do it unless you're doing clothing. and you have some models or whatever. Outside is very hard to regulate. Like a day like today is almost too bright to photograph products outside, especially on a whiteboard, because light reflects light, so it's going to create this glaring brightness. But if you do choose to go outside, choose a spot that is not in direct sunlight or dapple shade. Dapple shade is when you get under trees and you have pockets of light and pockets of shade. I don't know if you go out and take a picture just with your phone of somebody standing there, but have like blotches in the shade. You don't want that to be all over your products. An overcast day is preferred, and be very mindful of what is in your background. You may think, oh, I have this beautiful spot downtown. It's got the wall, and you take a picture, and there's 17 rows of bright blue recycling bins, and everybody's eye is drawn to the robin egg blue of the recycling bins that you have no way to get of your photo. The better part, if you're going to use natural light, is a room with good lighting. So pick a room that is overall bright, and bring a chair and table close to the window. So you don't want to again use direct sunlight. And people are like, oh, but sunlight's so bright. It is. It's really nice. But if you're placing a whiteboard down, the sunlight will reflect back all that light. It will change colors in reds and blues and purples. It will wash yellows out. So a bright yellow thing instantly goes very light yellow. So you just want a nice overall bright room, preferably one with light walls. And that can be because you can have this itsy bitsy little tiny room with one window with white walls that will actually be lighter when you go to take a picture than a room with a huge big patio door but dark walls, because the dark walls are absorbing all the light. In that room with the itty bitty window, all the white walls are reflecting the light. So it's bouncing around, and the camera sees that. You've got to take all the clutter and brightly colored items from your room, because your red Tim Hortons cup, no matter which way you take a picture, it's going to show up. It just always happens. I have done it so many times. You will need what's called a reflector. So if you have your chair and table right by the window, the sunlight's coming in, the light's coming in, half of your object is going to be light. The other half is going to be slightly darker. And you may not really see it too much with your eye, but a camera does. The easiest way to fix that is go to the dollar store and buy a piece of the white Bristol board and tape it on the non-window side. Just tape it up there. So the light will come in, it will hit that cardboard, and it will bounce down and will brighten up and equally brighten the other side of your product. When you are shooting with a window, be very careful that your body doesn't accidentally cast a shadow onto the product. And that's really simple to do. You get really into it and you're moving around and you click, and then you go to edit and you look like, oh crap, I have this shape, over top of my thing. Where did Sasquatch come from? So just take a couple of pictures. You can come up and always be on different angles. So find a couple of things that you need to climb up so you can shoot down and, try to get a little creative. Things like that, move in, move out. The natural light sessions also work best with what's called an affinity wall or a white background sweep, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Next slide, please. I feel like I should go ding. Okay, so artificial lighting. Artificial lighting, a lot of people think is a flash. Very seldom will you use a flash to do product photography. I know you see on TV the models and the photographers there, and he's flash, 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 flash. True, but we're not in New York, and we're not shooting for Vogue, and those images are totally different, and they're counterbalanced with other lights. So in our case, artificial lighting is what's called a light box. And that's a white three-dimensional cube, and it's made of an opaque material, a white opaque material that has an opening on one end and a white interior. So you have this cardboard cube, one end is open, and you place your product inside. If you see the picture here in the slide, that product picture was taken in a light box. You want these for high contrast images. So when you're this is my pen, I want to sell it, you put it in the light box. That's going to pick up every color, define every shape of that pen. A light box will use 4 separate light sources. one on each side, one on the back, and one on the top. Purchase light boxes will include an infinity wall or a sweep for seamless backgrounds, and some include lights. The ones that I have seen that are not super expensive only have a top light, so you would have to go to like Canadian Tire or Home Depot, Merit, buy just little lights and put a 100-watt light bulb in them, and it will brighten it up. There are lots of YouTube videos that you can make one from cardboard or bristol board from the dollar store, but you are going down to need to purchase the lighting and the backdrop. So next slide, please. So the white background sweep is just what it says. You can see on this chair here, it's a seamless background, and most times you can make from craft paper. What happens when you have a camera's eye can see a horizon line? So even if you have two white pieces of paper, cardboard, whatever, coming together at a 90-degree angle, the camera's eye will find that line, and it will be in your pictures. A sweep does exactly what this picture says. You cue to the top and swoops down the chair and rolls away. So it creates a curve, and that tricks the camera's eye into thinking that there's no end. Okay, it's super easy to construct. You can do it on your chair at a window. You can buy backdrops online that are huge, I think 12 feet long, and they will sweep out as well. Light boxes have this small version in them, and if not, you can just buy some craft paper when you're at the dollar store making your own. The only thing you have to be careful is make sure that whatever your sweep size is, it fits your products. So if you have one that's 4 feet wide, don't try and shoot something that's 3 feet wide. You're going to need to go probably half again in your sizing, just so that you're not getting edges. And then the last thing is editing. Everybody's like, oh, I don't know about editing. There are apps for your smartphone. Lightroom has a phone editing app, which will sync, if you are that way inclined, with Lightroom, the actual Lightroom program on your laptop or computer. There's PicMonkey, there's iPicky, Snapseed. They will all work to edit phone images. iPicky, BeFunky, Snapseed, I think, will work for point and shoot cameras, and they're free for when you plug in your camera and you want to edit. Don't edit a lot, and that's the problem. Unless your brand is a heavily edited brand, you just want basic, maybe brighten a little bit here. Oops, I didn't take the Timmy's cut out, take it out of the background. Don't put filters. Don't do things like that. Just a little bit of tweaking, and that's enough. Okay, next slide. Okay, so outsourcing content creation. Outsourcing content creation has always been a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And right now, it's simple. It's super simple, even though we're in a pandemic and social distancing and everything else. But creating content with a professional is really a partnership. We connect, and we figure out the best way to tell your story based on what your likes are and my suggestions. And it's not hard, it's not difficult. There's people are like, oh, it's going to be so expensive. No, it's not. There's all different kinds of plans, and it's customized to what your needs are. So we'll just kind of go through the steps of what happens when somebody reaches out to me that wants to create content. And this is for what my clients and I do. Not sure about another photographer, what their steps are. I'm pretty sure they're pretty similar. But. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to, I just kind of need to move this over here. Okay, so we're going to meet and we're going to chat because I want to hear all about your why. I want to hear all about why you're doing this, what your vision is, what you're creating. Are you doing a web page? Are you doing an e-commerce site? Are you linking to Facebook? Are you doing Instagram? I really want to be part of the excitement of you being an entrepreneur. So we're going to go through some of the boring things too, what your target market is. How did you figure that out? Do you have Google Analytics? What are your statistics? When are you getting your biggest hits? What things were drawing people in? So basically, it's us figuring out the best way to work together to get customers buying from you. And that's generally an hour to an hour and a half. And we kind of stretch out then. We talk about what you want to see for content. And we go through the 14, 21, 30-day posting thing. I kind of help you guide you through that. And then we figure out, okay, we're going to do the shoot. This is the next step. This is just your products. So before COVID, I would have you come and just bring your items and hang out with me, and we would chat. And because the more interaction there is, the better I know you as an entrepreneur, and the better way I can tell your story and take photos that really represent who you are. But it's COVID, so we get you to drop the products here off at the studio, and I would do a shoot. Now, if your products are not droppable and we have to go on site, like Tracy, we just arrange it. I have lenses and I have all the gear, and we can do it. so that it's within all the regulations and it's socially distanced and it's safe and everything. That session generally lasts about an hour. Takes about an hour to create that much content for about 30 days. If you are part of it, most people can only ever have their picture taken for about an hour, and then they're like, I'm done, I'm not having my picture taken anymore. So then step 3 would be a branding session with you. And that's your headshot. Can be photos of you wearing, if you are a maker, wearing some of your products or doing. Could be for promotions and giveaways. If you have a physical location, then definitely we will go there. We'll take those photos. And if you have a connection to town, I do a lot. I always say, let's go outside and we'll take some pictures downtown, if your business is downtown, because you can use those to be posting on social and people will connect. They'll be like, oh my gosh, there's the clock tower, or there's the lift locks, or different things like that. So it's another way to connect that, yes, here I am. I'm in Peterborough. My photo is taken here. So it's just another way to connect with people. But this session lasts about 60 minutes. And then step 4 is after you get all your photos back, we get together again, or a Zoom meeting. I keep saying get together, but it would probably be a Zoom. And we're going to do a little session on phone photography DIY. During these times, we'll be discussing things about like new inventory and taking photos. So you can come back and go, hey, I got this product in and I took these pictures, but they turned out like what happened here? And we can go through that at any time. But step 4 is a little session on actually doing that. And then we review the content and see, you know, if there's more that you want to add, or, you know, if we're good for 6 months. And I always say you should visit your professional photographer at least once a year, and that will update all of your product landing pages, your promotion, do your website, because your website should be freshened up about every 6 months or so. Just, you know, things get a little stale, and kind of tweak them out and things like that. And that session can last from an hour to an hour and a half as well. So for me, it's pretty easygoing and relaxed because I really want to connect with you. I have lots of kind of tricks and tips that I work with people. There's a little guideline, FAQs and things like that. Yeah, so our next slide, I think, ding, we're almost done. Yeah, so product photography is so important that it can actually make the difference between making a sale or losing your customers, or losing customers. People can really like you, and then they get on your website and they're like, oh, I don't know, and they click away. Site visitors were going to be almost 100% drawn to your images before they read a word of text. So we are so visual that that's what happens. We're going to see a picture and we're going to react to it far before we would react to a wordy post. So that's where awesome, innovative images will help to turn people into consumers. Professional photos and DIY photos combine to tell your brand's unique and amazing story. Yeah, and they're equally important. So they're very important to have as foundation, but also to keep updating. And the most thing is be creative and be unique. Really put yourself into your marketing, because that speaks to your brand. Your brand is you. This is your business. Your photos should be just as unique and just as awesome as you are. And it's super important to be out there. And that's me. I'm done.
Thank you, Heather, so much. So Heather's going to stick around for the Q&A. I'm just going to get into copywriting now, but thanks, Heather. That was awesome. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Write down all of your questions, and Heather's going to be around once I'm finished going through copywriting. Okay. You guys ready to get into copy? Here we go. Okay, so I I'm curious, show of hands, how many people are scared of writing copy? And it's normal if you are. Am I getting any hands up? Oh yeah, I'm getting some hands. Okay, of the ones I can see. Okay, good to know. Yeah, copywriting can be very scary, especially if you're not used to being a writer. You don't necessarily need to actually be a copywriter to write copy, but I'm going to give you some information and some tips and tricks on how to write copy. So for those of you that are like, what the heck is copy? If you've never heard that language used before, copy is the text for the purpose of advertising or other forms of marketing. So the product, which is called copy, is written content that aims to increase brand awareness and ultimately persuade a person or group to take a particular action. Okay, so that's, for those of you that have never heard copy before, that's advertising language for the text, okay? And I'm going to show you. So I'm in my office right now because my internet is not great at home, but this is copy, okay? This is copy right here. This is just a little handout for the innovation cluster, but this is copy. All of this stuff, this is copy here. Photography, right? What Heather was just talking to you about. Copy, 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 okay? So we're going to talk about copy today. Here we go. So you can be a copywriter even if you didn't necessarily go to school for it. There are people that go to school for a very long time to become a copywriter, right? It definitely takes work, it takes practice. So I'm going to teach you some things to kind of implement so that you can start to be a better copywriter yourself. Or if you have someone in your business doing that for you, you can share these tips and tricks with them so that they can do it for you. So the first piece is listen and implement client feedback. If you're already receiving client feedback, that's a huge piece of making sure that you are implementing what you hear from your customers into the copy that you're writing. Pay attention to the masters, right? There are people that are very, very good at their jobs, and you can follow them and watch what they do to take inspiration from how they write. Make sure you understand copywriting rules, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today. Create a process. I'm also going to give you a process that you can use. However, everyone is different. So if you have one that works better for you, you can totally do that. But I'm going to give you one that will at least give you kind of a little bit of a head start on this. And then last but not least, practice, practice, practice. You're not going to be great at copywriting necessarily right away. And if you are, congratulations. But it definitely takes practice. You have to practice at it. You have to try different things and you have to see what works. So we're going to be talking about all of those pieces and how we can bring them together so that you can be a copywriter. So copywriting is, like a lot of things, an art and a science, okay? So it requires creativity, but it also has to be persuasive. And it requires tests, trial and error, like I said, with your practice, improvement, and education. And one of my hot tips for copywriting is you're not writing a book, but you are conveying your brand while giving prospects information to make a decision, okay? So just keep that in mind, right? And I also don't want you guys to be spending, hours upon hours a day trying to write out your copy. Practicing will definitely make that a little bit easier for you. So here are some things to keep in mind when you are copywriting. Don't use slang, okay? Unless it appeals to your target market, because there are cases where slang can appeal to your target market. I would definitely avoid that. Even if there's slang that's used within your industry, maybe between other people that work in the same space as you do, most of the time your customer doesn't necessarily understand that slang. So just be careful with using slang. Avoid fancy words, right? People don't want to have to leave your post or whatever it is that you're promoting your website to go Google the word that you used in your copy. So be really careful with that. Use precise language. Be genuine. Genuine's huge. Heather was talking about authenticity earlier, and same goes for your copywriting. You really do want to make sure that you're genuine when you're writing copy. The magic of the word you is something that I think a lot of people overlook or businesses overlook when they are writing their copy. And you have to remember that someone is actually reading what you have written. So using the word you can be very, very powerful. If you are, doing a direct email campaign, in your subject line, using the word you can increase your open rates. If you are writing social media posts on Instagram or Facebook, saying you can make a huge difference, right? You are invited, or this is a great product for you. This is the product you've been waiting for, right? Saying that word in your copy can make all the difference. Have an outline to keep yourself focused. I'm going to give you an outline that actually is in the very first marketing booklet that was sent out to you. And then simplify and edit. Edit is huge. Editing is actually very, very important. People can get distracted if, there are grammatical errors when they're reading things, or when there are spelling errors. And aside from that, even myself, sometimes when I write copy, I'll put it aside for, maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on kind of what's going on with my day. And before I post it, I might come back to it and I might go, whoa, what was I doing when I wrote that copy? So it's really important sometimes to actually take a second away from your copy and come back to it. Unless you need to post something on the fly, that's always fine, right? I'm not saying every single time we need to be perfect, but definitely for the larger things, if you're doing launches of new products, things like that, you want to get your copy on point. Here's an example for why editing is very important. There's been lots of studies around these types of things and when it comes to copywriting, and there was a study that was done, that was conducted, that found that between these two phrases, the first one is a $5 fee and the second one is a small fee, they found that the second one, which had the descriptive word of small before $5, actually increased sign-up rates by over 20%, okay? And that's really important right now, because you do need to understand that a lot of copywriting is framing your product, okay? So the images are going to stop those people dead, right, in their tracks. They're going to see that photography and they're gonna be like, wow, and then they're gonna read more about it. And when you have these types of descriptive words that encourage them with your call to action and things like that, that's really going to make all the difference for them taking the next step. The first sentence of your copy is also very important. And I'm going to, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the frameworks around it in a second, but you always want to start with your strongest benefit, because there are lots of times when people will not necessarily get far enough in your copy to get where you want them to get. So the purpose of the first sentence is to get the second sentence read, and so on and so forth. So you really do want to start with your first sentence explaining your strongest benefit, and we'll talk about benefits in a second. So the importance of a great headline or email subject line, this kind of is across the board, but 8 out of 10 people will read headline copy, but only 2 out of 10 will read the rest. So we really want to put a strong focus on crafting those headlines or those email subject lines. So on your website, for example, your photography is really drawing people in. Then when they start to read the copy, the headline needs to bring them down to the body copy so that they actually start to read the rest. And 4 things that you can do to ensure that your headlines or your email subject lines are actually working for you. So you're not writing this copy out and it's not generating the sales that you need it to. You want that copy to do the work. So it makes sense for you to put time and effort into this. So make sure that it's useful. Make sure that it's urgent, make sure that it's unique, and make sure that it's ultra specific, okay? And you want to create content that appeals to your target market. Heather touched on this earlier, but these are some things that you want to keep in mind when you are creating this content. So you need to understand the pain, goals, and behaviors of your ideal customer. We talked about this earlier when we were talking about the business model canvas in the very first workshop, but understanding the pains, goals, and behaviors of your customer is really going to ensure that you're creating content that actually appeals to them. So you want to produce content that they will actually eat up, right? You want them to crave getting that content from you. You want them to consume it. You want them to engage with it. That is the ideal. And you want to make sure that your marketing efforts are personalized and segmented toward your target market. So I really hope that you guys have put in the work into your business plan and your marketing planning and understanding who your target market is, you know, drawing that picture as we talked about of who, you know, Karen or Mark or whoever it is so that you can start speaking to them. And create content for a purpose that you're driving traffic to your website, and you want to ensure that you're educating and keeping your customers' needs in mind at all times. And then, of course, you're monitoring and optimizing your analytics. So now we want to talk about what the feature versus benefits are, because this is really important to understand, and this is going to make a huge, huge difference for you when you are writing your copy. So when we look at benefits versus features, we talked about this before. This is the umbrella, right? You've seen this image before. And you can see here its features. The features of the umbrella are that it has cloth, that it's made of wood, that it's unbreakable. And then when you look at the benefits, it's that it protects you from the sun and the rain, right? We talked about this before, how important it is to understand the benefits because people buy benefits, right? Features just back up your benefits. So when we dig a little bit deeper into that, this is maybe aging me, I don't know. Does anybody remember iPods? But when we dig deeper into this piece, you'll see feature versus benefit for the iPod, okay? So when you look at storage for 1 gigabyte of MP3s, I mean, whatever. What people want is the 1,000 songs in your pocket, okay? That's the benefit. I love this too. So this is why benefits are important as well. So you'll see this is Mario here, a person who is a potential customer, and this is your product. So that's not necessarily what your business sells, okay? Your business sells an awesome person who can do rad shit. That's what your business sells, right? So I really want you to keep that in mind when you're writing your copy. When you're always focusing on your product, the features of your product, people don't totally understand what they're going to actually get out of that product, okay, or service, whatever case you are. So let's remember when we're writing our copy, no fake benefits. So we want to make a list of what our features are. We want to understand, okay, why is each of these features actually included? Like, what is the reasoning behind it? And then how does this connect with your customer? Okay, how is your consumer actually using the features? And then get to the root of why it's an actual benefit for your customer on an emotional level. And remember, when you're selling your benefits, you want to support them with features. So when we talk deeper into how to write sales copy that sells, or sales copy, I'm going to give you a wonderful little template, and I think you probably have already seen it in the first booklet, but you're going to start with your strongest benefit first. Then we're going to expand on that benefit. Then you want to back up your benefits with features. Okay, so in the case of the umbrella, right, the cloth, the wood, all of the actual features that protects you from the sun or the rain. And then you're going to let them know what will happen if they don't act now, right? We want to create urgency. People do not purchase if there's no urgency around it. And then you want to sum up your benefits once again. And finally, your call to action. And ignoring a call to action is a huge mistake. So really make sure you're not always selling on social, by the way. Which is something we're going to kind of talk about a little bit more in the last workshop. This is more planning, but we're not always selling on social. You do need to make sure that you're building connection, you're giving education, those types of things. But when you do sell, call to action is hugely important. People don't know what to do unless you tell them what to do. They don't know what you want them to do as a business. So how to write copy that sells. You want to match your features with your benefits. Be specific to boost credibility. Okay, if you have statistics, if you have numbers, if you have things that can show proof for how this actually works to your benefit, that's going to be huge. You want to overcome objections right in your copy if you can. And I'm going to give an example for this in a second. Then you want to give them a little bit of a nudge to take action, and you want to be bossy with your call to action. So here is my example. I'm just going to move here. Okay, so here's my example. This is actually using the innovation cluster as an example, but when you start to work on this yourselves, obviously you're going to use your own business. I just wanted to give you a sample so that you could kind of see how that might feel. So match your features with your benefits. We get it. Starting business is hard work. We've been changing entrepreneurs' lives for over a decade. Be specific to boost credibility. The Innovation Cluster creates a pathway for technology startups to prosper through our 6-month incubation program, including access to mentors, experts, virtual workshops, an ecosystem of like-minded founders, and the angel investor network, and more. Use proof to get people to believe what you're saying. And don't make up proof, guys, okay? This has to be real when you're using proof. The incubation programs are proven to increase your chances of success by up to 50%. Just ask our clients. I think actually this quote is from someone who's on this workshop right now, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is from Jess. They're helping me stay focused, keeping me making the right decisions. Great job, Jess. Overcome objections. We know that talking about your struggles can be intimidating, which is why our experts and programs are built to meet you wherever you are. As a not-for-profit organization, we offer our program complimentary with no equity stake in your company. Give people a nudge to take action. From the initial business plan to taking your company worldwide, only you can bring your idea to market, but we can be the sidekick on your journey. Be bossy with your call to action. Incubation space is limited. Apply now to take your startup to the next level. Cool? Okay. So now it's your turn to do it, but because we have limited time in this workshop, you guys are going to do this on your own time, okay? But I do want you to actually take the time. If you have time after this workshop today, please do take the time to fill this out. And a lot of the times, I find, and I've passed this on to clients, they've kept it, next to their computer, or even myself, I've kind of got a guideline when I'm writing copy. I keep it kind of next to my laptop so that I can actually write copy well, because sometimes you're busy, you've got a lot of other things on the go, and sometimes, you need a framework to kind of get you there. So this can be a really good way to kind of prompt you. And it doesn't always need to be this long. This is a longer version. You can shorten it up, but definitely this is a good tool for you to use when you're writing copy. So when you're creating content from home, and Heather definitely touched on a lot of really great things, so please keep that in mind. This is sort of a little bit more having to do with if you're designing anything, but just as some tips and tricks, keep the look clean and simple, very important. Use heads and subheads if you're designing. If you're doing a product launch or an announcement and you want copy on top of something, like on top of an image, or just with a clean background, these are just some tips and tricks for that. Avoid using a lot of copy in your images if you're designing anything. You definitely want to, keep your copy for caption underneath any like social posts, or if you want to put it in a blog or on your website. I would avoid using a lot of copy in an image, and ensure that your copy and your captions are on point. Use templates if you're not a graphic designer. I love to design things, but not everybody likes to do that. So Canva can be a great free option for you if you're looking for something like that to design any kind of promotional material that you're making. But there's so many different ones out there. I did put it in the first marketing handbook that was sent out, so you can flip back there if you're looking for something like that. And of course, as Heather said, great photos, they make all the difference. And make sure that you are keeping your target market in mind. So I'm going to show you a couple examples just with some copy overlay, just that you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about, especially during COVID. It is important that we're really making sure we're addressing the new needs that our customers are facing, because they're different from what they were before. That's why we're going through bringing your business online, right? We really want to make sure, how are we addressing the needs that our customers actually have right now? So here's an example from Trello. Okay, this is just very simple. This is on their website, but this is just a sample of copy that I like to share. I thought they did a great job. So Trello is the free, flexible, and visual way to organize anything with anyone. Drop the lengthy email threads, out-of-date spreadsheets, no longer so sticky notes, and clunky software for managing your projects. Trello lets you see everything about your project in a single glance. I thought it was cute. I thought they did a good job with that, okay? And they definitely do actually point out the pain points of the customer in this copy, right? Because it is difficult, especially with businesses being remote right now. It reduces lengthy email threads, out-of-date spreadsheets, the sticky note issue, right? So think about those things. Think about what are the problems that your customers are actually having. Here's another one that I thought did a great job, and this is just a very easy way of laying out different pricing options for your customer once they get to the pricing page. This is Donut. I'm not going to get too much into what they actually are, but I wanted to show you how you could incorporate, you know, some design into your website to allow for your customers to choose between different pricing options. As you can see, they've actually highlighted this middle piece here, which is their standard. And just by having this little line on the top here that you see that says recommended, that is going to increase that click-through, right? So we really want to be cognizant when we're on our website of how we're highlighting the different pieces and how we want people to actually interact with things. Here's another good one from Headspace. During COVID, this is right on their website. We're here for you. There are a lot of unknowns in the world right now, but one thing is certain, Headspace is here for you. To help support you through this time of crisis, we're offering some meditations you can listen to anytime, okay? And then as you can see up in the right-hand corner, we have try for free, okay? So they have it offered for a free trial. So just, these are all things that you definitely want to think about, okay? Think about how you're crafting the spoken language to your customers who are landing on your website, who are landing on your social media. Denny's, so this was, I actually have never been to Denny's in my life, but I wanted to point out what the difference is between pre-COVID marketing and post-COVID marketing, because that's very important, okay? Obviously Denny's was like, come try us today, all that good stuff before. So if you're a restaurant, on this call or something, this is just something you want to keep in mind. They do give updates when it comes to health and safety. People are thinking about those things, so you definitely want to do that. But also, like what Heather said before, if you have new menu items, you want to keep updated with those photos, right? We can't necessarily be using all the old photos of our food products that we were using before. And then finally, I wanted to show you what an email potentially could look like. And we had talked a little bit about email marketing. We're going to go into a little bit more detail later on as well, not during this workshop, but in the next one. Email marketing is huge. It's huge for getting your funnels to convert. And so you want to ensure that your copy and your emails is doing that. It's helping you to convert your sales. So this is a sample from Walgreens. You can see that their header says, "We're here with you." Notice how all of these examples use a lot of you, right? We really want to make sure that we're talking directly to our customer, almost as if it was in person, right? You do want to make sure that you're talking to your customer the same way that you would if you were having a one-on-one with them. Stay safe and informed with our new services, right? So they have their updated store hours, if that's relevant to you, drive-through shopping, they have social distancing support, and all kinds of great resources. This is a way that you can also lean into education, as we chatted about before as well. So some next steps for you as business owners is definitely you want to choose the 3 most important things to improve in your marketing communications. You don't want to get overwhelmed, okay? So what are your priorities? If you've already worked on the marketing communications plan guide, great job. If you haven't, please do that. And then obviously start selling.